Well, hello all you wonderful people out there in YouTube land. This is a Texas special. We are here in the garage for this railroad update / how-to video. We've got 4 sheets of 1/2 inch by 4 foot by 8 foot plywood, 8 2-inch by 4-inch by 8 foot boards, and 32 1-inch by 4-inch by 8 foot boards, and enough associated hardware, 64 carriage bolts and 120 some odd 1.5 inch wood screws. I'm going to turn this right here into 2 4 by 16 foot model railroads. The HO scale railroad will be 4 by 16 foot. That'll be the final dimensions. It'll be against this back wall here. The O gauge railroad starting off will be 4 by 16 foot. It will be right there directly across from the 4 by 16 foot HO railroad, and eventually will be expanded to a final dimensions of 8 foot by 16 foot. So with that being said, as soon as my buddy of mine from the Texas Model Railroad Club, lives here in town, shows up, we're gonna get cracking on this, the first of hopefully many how-to videos. Now I'm only going to document the building of one of these tables because it'll be 4 identical tables. They'll be built the exact same way. There's no reason to show, you know, how we built each and every single one when they're built the same way. The only thing that I will show in addition to building the tables, building one of the tables, is how they are bolted together with carriage bolts, which, like I said, it will be 2 carriage bolts between the 2 tables. But thank you for watching and stay tuned. Hopefully you find this informative, at the very least entertaining. Alright, talk me through what you're doing there, Jim.
We are going to make these 2x4s into legs by cutting them exactly in half. We want a layout height 48 inches from the base. So we're about to make 4 legs.
Alright, now we're making the frame. Inside braces for the frame, I'm assuming.
46.5 inches.
46.5 inches. I didn't want these with beveled edges meeting at a 45. I wanted them just regular edges for simplicity and ease of construction. So if you're building one of these 4 by 8 tables and you're doing it like I did, just button the ends together with 1 by 4s, your inside braces will need to be 46.5 inches cut to length.
Always check your ends, make sure they're already square. If not, square them up.
Inside braces have been measured to 46.5 inches in length, and we are about to headphone warning again. These are going to be spaced every 2 feet in length along the table, the underside of the table, to help support the 1/2-inch plywood. And right now he is measuring to cut off the excess length that the 46.5 cuts is leaving us with. To make each 4x8 table, we used 3 1x4 by 8 foot boards to make the cross braces, and 2 1 inch by 4 inch by 8 foot boards to make the outer lengthwise portion of the frame. So to make the frame, you will need a total of 4 1 inch by 4 inch by 8 foot boards if you build it the way we did. Headphone warning. And now comes the fun part, actually putting the frame together. You see there, he is marking the width of the cross brace, and we'll be marking every 2 feet the width of the cross braces. You will do this for both sides of the 8 foot frame. Alright, so you can see this is a plywood topper for one of the tables. The reason we're assembling this on top of a table is so we have a workbench. I don't have a workbench in this garage, nor will I have space for a workbench in this garage really. And the first table that we built, it was assembled on the floor, and it took about 2 or 3 times as long to assemble than this one is taking, because we had to play with funny angles on the floor. So we're using one of the tables to build another table, and we're going to be repeating this process with the remaining tables, which is why this table doesn't have anything on it, but the other one's got sub-road bed already. What we're doing right now is we're laying out the frame and getting everything lined up so that we can start pre-drilling holes to sink the 1.5 inch wood screws that we'll be using to hold this frame together. All right, so you can see Jim is holding it there. He's got the drill and pre-drilling where the cross brace meets up with the frame. Reason for that is with these 1x4s, that will help prevent the 1x4s from splitting when you go to screw them in, or when you go to put the screws in. If you don't pre-drill, then you're going to end up with splitting boards. May not be all of them do it, but you will end up with inevitably a few that split. We got the frame half assembled so it'll quit falling over off the edges, but if you want to check that you're square, you run tape measure from this corner to the opposing corner and get a measurement.
107.5 inches.
If your measurement is the same, going both ways on both sides of the board, then your table is square and true, or your platform rather, which means that your table will be square and true. If it's not, now is going to be pretty much your final opportunity to make final adjustments.
107.5, we're true.
We're good to go. Those marks that you saw Jim making earlier on the 8-foot section of the frame are lined up on the inside of the frame, the inside. That way we can use those as a template to make sure that the boards are lined up where they're supposed to be. And if you have a board that's kind of crooked or bowed out, that's no problem. Just sink a top or bottom screw, and then whichever side the top or bottom needs to be kind of bowed back out to line up square, you know, you can sink one screw like he's about to do. And if hypothetically this bottom portion needed to be pushed in or pushed out to line up, with only one screw in, you can make that adjustment and sink it where it needs to be sunk. Alright, so what we're working on now is leg braces. We've got the legs cut, we've got the frame assembled, and we're working on getting the braces for the legs cut. Once we have that done, we will drill holes for the carriage bolts for the legs, for the 2x4s to mate up to the frame, and we will start attaching these braces, 45-degree braces, to the they'll brace the table frame and the legs for a much more sturdy and stable platform than just carriage bolting or even screwing the damn 2x4s to would give you. What measurement are you using, Jim?
We're basically running a 45 degree, and we have a total length on the brace, 29¼ inches on the long side. We've already made a pattern to make it much easier to simply draw it out and not have to measure every time.
All right. And we explained how it works. You don't really need to see this. So out of an we'll be 8-foot, 1 foot or 1 inch by 4 inch board. Using the measurements we have for our pattern there that Jim is using, you get 3 braces out of 1 board. You need 2 per leg. So that means you need 2 1x4x8 boards using those measurements per side. If you're building it the way we're building it, using the measurements we're building it, that gives you a total of 4 boards for the braces. Alright, now is the fun part, attaching the legs. You see Jim there, he's got the leg. We're going to put it against the outside of this far brace, at which point we will use the drill once it's squared and true.
Clamp. Square.
We'll use a clamp to hold it in place. Use the carpenter square to true it up. Let the clamp get a good bite down on it. Acting as third hand. Drill the 3/8 inch. We're using 3/8 inch. using 3/8 inch diameter carriage bolts. And make sure you use proper eye and hearing protection, unlike us dumb rednecks here in East Texas. Just slip the carriage bolts in and get them good and tight. And here momentarily, once that's completed, we will use those braces that we measured and cut to give a little bit extra structural support coming this way. Now we'll use a clamp to hold the brace in place, get everything lined up. And my original intention was to use carriage bolts here, here, and on the other brace here. But I screwed up, my math sucks, and I didn't buy enough, so I'm just gonna sink them with wood screws for now. And later, if the desire or need arises, I will go back and take out the wood screws one at a time and replace them with carriage bolts. Once you got everything lined up, take the power drill and pre-drill holes for the wood screws, or if you're doing it as I originally intended with carriage screws, you will drill your holes on the leg where he's working right now. That was always intended to be wood screws, but as I said, along the frame there, that was originally supposed to be carriage bolts, but I suck at math, so we're just going to use wood screws for now. Now, as before, pre-drill the holes. You don't really have to worry about the wood splitting when you're going, through the wood like this, perpendicular, but it does make life a whole heck of a lot easier when the drill bit stays with this drill. Now, you don't have to drill, you don't really have to pre-drill like this when you're drilling through the wood, but it does make life a whole heck of a lot easier not having to fight with the screws, the wood screws, until they finally dig in and get a bite. With all your holes pre-drilled, then you can start going in and using your wood screws and screwing everything in good. Not sure if I mentioned it earlier, but I'm using 1.5 inch wood screws for this project throughout. We'll sink the wood screws. At least one per end per brace, that way we can take the clamps off. And then wash, rinse, and repeat for the other 3 legs. Final step of the frame, process frame and tangled portion is the cross bracing down here on the legs. This will help keep the table sturdier laterally. mounting them 3.5 inches off the floor. The reason that these tables, I've specified them to be as high as they are, is so that I can store stuff underneath the table as needed. Since these two tables, this is going to be 6 of these, making up 2 model railroads.
Better than one more.
There's going to be 6 of these making up 2 model railroads, and they will encompass the vast majority, they will eat up the vast majority of the space in this garage. Right now he is verifying that they are square and at the correct level and whatnot. Put the level on it and make sure it's level. According to the level, it's good. You're going to check it with the carpenter square, make sure it's true.
We're good.
All right. And now we will shoot it with the drill to pre-drill the holes, and we will use those wood screws to get everything. The holes drilled, the holes pre-drilled. Jim's sinking the 1.5 inch wood screws in. And then we will do the same thing on this side. Check it with the carpenter level, make sure it's put the clamp on it so that it doesn't go anywhere. And pre-drill the holes, sink in the screws. Alright, now the moment you've all waited for. Grabbing the plywood and sealing the deal.
That come my way a little bit.
Now, it doesn't really matter if you're going to use foam insulation board as a sub-road bed like I do. It doesn't really matter which side you use as far as smooth or rough or whatever. I like getting the rough stuff. Number one, it's cheaper. Number two, it gives the glue, the liquid nails, something to bite into. You can see there he is pre-drilling to sink the wood screws. All we're doing is just putting 1 screw per corner. The rest of the tabletop is held down with regular old finishing nails that I will pound in at my leisure over the next few days. Alright y'all, there it is, the finished product of the how-to video. One completely assembled 4-foot by 8-foot table. This is going to be part of the O-gauge railroad. Like I said, well, I guess I didn't say. This will be a 8 by 16 foot railroad when it is all said and done. This is actually sturdy enough to walk on. And even though you got all these rough knots in here, that's not going to be a problem because this is all going to be covered up with a foam layer of insulation board, which will be a scenery base. Now, while I have you, I'm also going to show you the underside. I'm not sure how well it's going to turn out, but I'm going to try. You see there, that's a carriage bolt. I have these tables bolted together so that they stay perfectly or relatively perfectly in line with one another.